You have a right to know not only where your tax dollars are going, but also that they are being used appropriately. As the official opposition, it is our job to scrutinize the government spending. And one way I've been keeping Canadians updated is through this regular By the Numbers review. In this episode, we are taking a look at some of this Prime Minister's most egregious misuses of taxpayer dollars. Let's be honest, being a member of an eminent Canadian family, Justin Trudeau has enjoyed a financially secure lifestyle since day one. Lost a second of sleep worrying about how he'll pay his rent or mortgage, or if he'd had enough money to feed his family. Unlike the rest of us, Trudeau doesn't care how high the price of gas gets or what it costs to heat his home. It doesn't matter to him for two reasons. First, because you're paying those bills for him. And secondly, because with a net worth of $10 million, he'll be just fine after he leaves Ottawa. And here are just a few examples. Up first, Governor General Mary Simon. She and her staff went on an 8-day trip to Europe and the Middle East last March and spent nearly $100,000 on in-flight catering alone. This included $1,000 for lemons and limes and over $100 for 4 liters of apple juice. The GG staff blamed a monopoly on catering at certain airports as the reason for the exorbitant costs, and also claimed that they weren't served anything the average passenger wouldn't have access to. Some of their menu choices: beef Wellington, beef Carpaccio, and apple and cranberry stuffed pork tenderloin, served with a maple gravy. On to the Prime Minister. While most Canadians are struggling to pay for groceries and many parents are skipping meals so their kids don't have to, the Prime Minister spent as much as $12,000 in 1 month on groceries in 2021 during COVID. This is in addition to the house, cottage, chef, nannies, car, and driver Canadian taxpayers provide for him, while paying him over $350,000 per year. This brings us to some of the big bills submitted by Liberal ministers for office renovations and updates. Among the highest was former Infrastructure Minister Amarjeet Sohi and his deputy minister, who spent over $800,000 on furniture and renovations to their offices. As well, the former Minister of Fisheries, Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard, Bernadette Jordan, spent $250,000 on office furniture and a new car. That's $250,000 in taxpayers' money at a time when people were losing their jobs and struggling due to a global pandemic. Next, I want to touch on the money the Liberals spent just to design the print version of Budget 2017. They handed over $157,000 taxpayer dollars to stage photos for the front and back cover, develop fact sheets, web advertisements, and explanatory videos. Cost rose as a result of a debate about whether one of the 4 models on the cover should be wearing glasses, and other important questions. And finally, let's look at some of the Prime Minister's taxpayer-funded holidays. Justin Trudeau flew friends, staff, and family to a private island in the Bahamas for Christmas 2016, which cost taxpayers over $125,000. In October 2021, Justin spent almost $20,000 for a few days in Tofino, British Columbia, with Sophie. And this past December, while the rest of us were dealing with an inefficient passport system and canceled flights, and just days after he paid lip service to how much inflation is hurting Canadian families, Justin spent $163,000 taxpayer dollars on his family vacation to Jamaica. Sadly, these are only a few of the many examples of Liberal waste that we had time for today. If you have favorites of your own, share them with me in the comments, and we'll include them in an upcoming edition of By the Numbers. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This Liberal government has no respect for the Canadian taxpayer.